With this video, I'm going to show you all how to identify internal and external arcs for a tangency problem. This is important so that we would know when we will have to add or subtract our measurements. Okay, so before us, we have two tangency problems that we are going to attempt, and while attempting, I'm going to explain. So let's start with the problem to the right. So here we have a shape. It resembles an eyebrow, okay, or whatever other shape you would like it to be. The main thing is for us to get this particular shape. Okay, so let's start. So we have this arc here, and the radius of this arc is 6 millimeters. So we could go ahead and start with that. So using the circle tool, center radius, I'm going to put my center somewhere here. I'm going to start 6. Then from the very bottom of this circle, we have a length that takes us to the point where our two arcs will meet, and that distance is 45 millimeters from the lower or the lowest part of the circle. Okay, so we could go ahead right away and draw a line 45 millimeters. Nice. So here is where we have two arcs, right, that we need to find the centers for and scribe. So let's start with the arc below. Now the arc below, how do we know that this arc is an internal or an external arc? Now in relation to this first circle here, if we were to complete this circle, right, we would see that it looks like this, right? Now if this circle is outside of the arc, it's called an external arc. If it was inside, it would be an internal arc. So in this case, this lower arc is an external arc because the smaller circle that we want to make tangential to this lower arc is outside of it. So therefore we have to add. So from this point, or the center point of this 6 radius millimeter circle, we would have to add the radius of this lower arc, which is 30 millimeters. So 6 plus 30 will give us 36, and we know that arc has to come some way below the shape. So using the arc tool, center, start, end, center, and then we measure 36 and we scribe our first arc. Now from the other point, we can go ahead and scribe 30 radius to cut that first arc. So using the arc tool, center, start, end, we go from this point and we type 30 and we scribe. Now we know this is the center of our lower arc, right? Now let's use a circle, right? from center, and we know this is the radius, which is 30 millimeters. Now here we could clearly see the internal and the external feature being shown. Now with this arc or lower arc that we have here, we know that this smaller circle is outside of this circle, or in this case for the arc. So hence the reason it's considered an external arc. Now for the internal arc, alright, and we know internal we have to subtract. So that's this arc to the top now. So the radius of that is 35. So now we start our first point at the center of the 6 radius millimeter circle, and we need to scribe our first arc somewhere to the bottom of the shape. And we know that this is an internal arc, so we have to subtract based on the rules, right? So let's go ahead and scribe that. We need to work out first. So we say 6 from 35, that will be 29. So we come from here, center of the small circle, and we scribe 29. So we have 29 there. And then the internal arc would meet at the same point here, which is the end of line 45 millimeters. So let's go ahead, center start end, and from the end of here, and we know we have to use the radius of 35, and we scribe our arc here. Now if we were to use the circle tool, using this point as center, and now this as the radius, we have our other arc here, or circle in this case for now. Now this smaller circle is now inside of this larger circle, hence the reason this is called an internal arc, right? So it all depends on the circle in relation we are dealing with. We would know if it's internal or external. Now let's use our trim tool and neaten up this a bit. And now we could change this to our object line there. So there we have it. This is our first problem and explanation for internal and external arcs. We'll have a part 2 of this video.